Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I'm MechGuyver. This is Rice Rocket. If you've been around the channel, you know the car, you know what I've been up to with this thing lately. And well, this thing, to get it running for Points Event 1 was quite the, oh man, adventure, headache, you name it. I had problems with it. I started thinking I could do a Mini-Me Z6 head swap and put it on a Y7 bottom end. That didn't work out. I didn't have the right head bolts. Went to plan B, mimic what they had in the car using the ARP head studs that were in the engine that came in the car. Well, torquing it down, one of the bolt heads snapped. Just my luck. Murphy's Law, I tell you. Heather had this engine sitting here. This was meant for her car, but she was gracious enough to let me use it. So this car received a D16Z6. It's got the Z6 distributor, but the Z6 distributor is converted to obd2B instead of being obd1, which was a whole lot more simple than it sounds. The two plugs are identical. They are wired almost identical. The only difference is the obd1 plug is missing one wire that is on the second plug for the obd1 distributor. So snip it, solder it, repin it, plug it in, and boom, you've converted the distributor to obd2B. This is an obd2B car, being a 99. It's running on a P28 with HON data, so it has a jumper harness to convert that back to obd2B for the wiring harness, and then the signal from the distributor is now converted to obd2B so that everything's all copacetic. Hopefully that makes sense to you. On top of that, I had to make sure to use an obd2 alternator, but I had to make sure to use the Y7 crank pulley, because without the Y7 crank pulley, I didn't have a belt the right size. It was entirely too big. So I used the Y7 pulley with the obd2 Y7 alternator, and everything's good on this Z6. As far as tuning goes, I'm sorry I don't have much footage from tuning it for the event, but I started with a stock Z6 map from a P28 ECU. I did some low speed driving to figure out where it was going on the map to give it some low speed and idle tuning. Then I slowly worked up in RPMs doing pulls, slowly increasing the fuel in the areas that the little red box that you guys have seen on previous videos tuning this car, that shows where the fuel requirements and the load on the engine are. So where that would go, and when it would lean out, I would increase fuel, and when it started to like where it was, I would move on and move up in RPMs. It's still not perfect. It needs some fine tuning before Sunday's event for Points Event 2, but we are going to make Points Event 2. I'm ecstatic about that. This thing survived extremely well with just plugs getting wrapped up in the axle due to me not hanging them properly, whatever, I don't know. And my poorly tapped oil pan leaking, which I think I've fixed. We'll find out. So that's pretty well the rundown of what I had to go through to get this thing running. Tuning it on site was a bit hectic. I did actually have to start over at one point. I had it running so poorly that it was almost undrivable, and I about panicked. But I breathed for a second, realized that it drove, at least at low speeds, on the stock D16Z6 map. So I went back to that, and I did less increasing on the fuel maps, and it was more concise, and the car seemed to love it. We made all 6 runs at the event. I drove it on the trailer. I drove it into the garage to check it out, and we're gonna be taking it, like I said, to Points Event 2. If you haven't seen the autocross run video with this car, it's actually quite a hoot to watch. This thing drug its side skirts and its bumper around every corner, and every time I hit the brakes good and hard, it would drag that front bumper. I had a blast driving it. Everybody said it was an awesome show to watch, and I hope you enjoy the video. So now you know what I went through to get this thing running. It was quite the headache. Thank you for joining me on this little video about the more technical side of what I had to do to get this thing running and get it to the points event. Go fast, don't break it.